I call the June meeting of the Davenport Parks and Recreation Advisory Board in session. And we'll do roll call, and I will be doing that task as well tonight. So if you will let me know where you're here. Coiner?
Here.
Greenlee?
Here.
Who? Here. Kefauver? Meyer?
Here.
Peterson? Here. Powell?
Here.
Yeah. Schertz?
Here.
Hi, Mike. Spratt? She will not be here. Walker? Whitmire?
Here.
Great. We have a quorum, and we will proceed with our agenda. First on the docket tonight is approval of the May minutes. You received them, and there's a copy at your place today. And take just a minute to look it over. And I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes in a second when you feel ready.
So moved.
Okay. It's been moved to...
I'll second.
Okay. One moment, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have no individuals or group here for public comment, and there is no old business, but new business, as we stated at our last meeting, would be a topic of discussion. And Chad is going to start us by some remarks.
Sure. So last month we had some public with comment regarding issues or concerns with the dog park. So in reviewing and thinking about it, I'm of the opinion, and I wanted to get your guys' input. And for those who have not been on the advisory board, just a sort of reference, it's probably been a year or two, maybe longer. We had some citizens concerned about some issues at Prospect Terrace Park. And at that time, we took the opportunity from an engagement standpoint to form an ad hoc sort of review committee to give a recommendation going forward on how to address those issues. So the long and short of it, that committee was comprised of several of the residents, as well as park advisory board members and several of the department staff. So given that we have the dog park concerns on South Marquette, as well as another dog park on North Marquette, and that we are in the planning process of potentially bringing a dog park to Duck Creek, I would make the recommendation to do a similar process to where ad hoc committee is formed to review the current conditions, the needs, the overall operations of our dog parks, and then come back, sort of with a recommendation to staff as how that should be implemented. So I would think that maybe 2 to 3 park advisory board members or whoever, will take sort of an interest, who would be interested in being involved in that process. We would re-engage with those who were here at the previous meeting, the public that came to speak on it, and see if there's interest there. I think also to sort of broaden the area or the community reach, we would put something out advertising the opportunity to participate probably through our social media channels. Ideally, we'd love to have neighbors who use the North Marquette DOLA and several of the residents or community in and around Duck Creek that will potentially have use of that DOLA if it comes to fruition. So that is my recommendation, and I would offer that up for comment and discussion at this point.
I have no one signaling they would like to speak at this point, but I think, okay, well, why don't we get started then? Did you push Howell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So, sorry about the confusion. Yeah, definitely if you're looking for people to get on board with that, I'm super familiar with lots of different breeds of dogs and their backgrounds, and I definitely would love to be a part of that and their needs, and so keep me in mind, when that time comes.
Thanks.
I would also be interested. I don't have loads of ideas, but I'm sure my fiance would help me out. She's a big dog lady.
Yeah, Jerry?
I don't have a dog currently, and I'm not necessarily interested in that, but it seems like a perfect idea to have an ad hoc committee with especially some of those frequent users that brought their concerns to us.
I was curious about what we might consider a realistic timeline. Had you thought about that, Tad?
Yeah, so if we can coordinate it and sort of get this set up by early July, which would be ideal, I would think a 6 to 8 week maybe timeline. Ideally for us from an implementation or recommendation standpoint, as we plan and go into our budget cycle in October or late September, it would be good to have this process at least concluded, or a draft version of that we can, as staff, utilize in that planning going forward, especially if we're going to identify either additional acreage or capital improvements or additional staffing that may be required. Of course, that's all budgetary related. So that's sort of the timeline I would think would be most appropriate.
Thank you. I wasn't making that earlier noise, was I? Anyhow, with this too, do we have the names of the individuals? We don't ask for theirs, but we do. So they would be an initial contact with maybe spreading the word, or do we go to the dog park and?
So we have their
It's under-
names. So when they came to the dais to speak, they had to give their name and ward or address. So we captured that, and then we have some communication from several of them. So I don't think there's any issue in being able to identify, reach out, and engage to see if that's a process they want to be involved in.
Jerry?
Well, committee, we need somebody that's going to be in charge. Okay, do you want to be in charge? Secondly, is we've got a list of all the things that they wanted done, am I correct? So what we need to do as a committee, in my opinion, is we need to go to both dog parks and match this with what's going on down there. Then we can make some sound decisions of maybe possibly what needs to be corrected and not corrected. Is that correct? That make sense? And then we can get involved with the people that were in with them. And obviously they probably have more recommendations. So I think to get it started, I think we just need to evaluate what we have here. And then the second and the third thing is that if we're going to put one at Duck Creek, first of all, where is that going to be? And is there any other place that we could put one? It maybe as a larger one like they have in, I don't want to bring up Bettendorf, but they have a very large dog park. And I still think Credit Island is an ideal situation for that. And I'm not trying to be favoritism to Credit Island, but we've got an awful lot of land down there that we could very easily put a huge, huge dog park. And I think a dog park is a destination business. So if they want to go walk their dog or take their dog and let them run, if we put that up for small dogs, big dogs, just, you know what we were supposed to do with that. I think that would be a great idea to do that. Now, if we have enough room, you don't have enough room down in Marquette. You don't have enough room on the upper Marquette. But I don't know how much room you have over at Duck Creek. I don't think you have that much over there either, do you?
So the Duck Creek is a current CIP that's funded for improvements that incorporates the area where the ball fields used to be and the tennis courts currently are, that open swath.
Okay.
So it's really a three-project project. The first part of that entails updating the tennis courts and repairing them and potentially converting to pickleball. The second would be the addition of a dog off-leash area. And
So we
third-
could have one over there.
Yeah.
That would be,
So
that makes sense.
long story short is we've identified an area for a
Okay.
potential space. and
Okay.
Then it's just design and size, how it lays out and fits in that space. So,
Yeah.
but to all your points, I think they're great, Jerry, and certainly that's probably the scope that we would look for this committee to sort of look at, right? Evaluate existing features, hear concerns, look at expansion or the need for additional DOLAs within the community, like at potentially Credit Island, right? Because we really, and I'd have to go back to the master plan. I don't know off the top of my head, but if we're considered deficient in dog parks for the size of community we are. I would tell you that the South Marquette DOLA is probably undersized for the volume of use. I think that leads to a lot of the maintenance issues and concerns. There is an opportunity, there is a swath of Centennial where we had put the temporary dog park in when we did some maintenance to the existing one that could provide for a larger one if that's identified as something we want to look at through this
Is that
committee.
between the splash unit and the stadium?
Yep.
In between there?
Yep.
And then is it a possibility that you could add, and I think it was stated in here, or conversations of maybe having a splash area for dogs over on the other side that was connected to that?
I would always tell you anything is possible if it's
I'm
funded.
just throwing it,
right?
I'm just thinking outside the box here, that's
Right.
all I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, there's dog parks that have water features throughout the country, that is a possibility.
But if we're gonna be good, if we're gonna do it right, we might as well do it the best we possibly can.
Exactly.
So, okay,
It
anyway,
sounds
that's my
like we're having
opinion.
a mini committee meeting.
Well, I was gonna
And
say, it
so-
looks like we have 3 interested.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
that's wonderful.
And then
And
we'll assign a couple staff members, so I can certainly follow up with the 3 of interest. Set a preliminary just meeting kickoff within the next couple weeks, and at that one you can sort of define the scope and what you guys are doing, and then we can also start the engagement piece to find interested residents in participation too. So
we had Farah say she would certainly take it on. Do you, then when you get together, that the group would choose kind of someone who leads through the process as such? But you can decide how you want to.
yeah, I don't think all
Organize or
that
go
needs to
forward.
be decided right now. But yeah, certainly you'll want to have somebody to sort of chair the meetings as well as a secretary or a note taker. But
Mike has a comment, I believe.
Jody typed in a message. She joined us online. She would like to know how the dog park changes would be funded.
until we know what those changes are, I don't have an answer for that. Significant capital improvements would go through the CIP funding mechanism for the city. And if you recall, that's a 6-year plan of prioritized projects. There's other mechanisms, park development. So some improvements could be identified and put into the park development program. And then lastly would be our operational budget, but that would be, I'm not going to spend Betsy's money now, but that one would be probably be very minor improvements and just minor maintenance adjustments, if anything.
Chris has a comment.
Just that we have the world's largest pet food plant here in town, and that's certainly something to reach out to. I know they have some signage at the Marquette, the South Marquette one.
Yeah.
They have no shortage of money.
Right. Right. So yeah, besides just city money, there's other funding mechanisms you can look at. You can look at sponsorships, donors, that type of stuff as well.
Jody has another question. She asked, how did this miss the yearly project list we took in January?
Because the issue was brought to our attention last month in April or May.
Does that answer for you? Jody?
She said, okay, thanks.
So small. Good, good. Other comments? What kind of in a summary point, we have, advisory board members who want to proceed with the task. We have Chad setting a meeting, an introductory meeting with the three of you. And we've got a sense of what the other components, the public would be in suggestions. Is that satisfactory to everyone that we proceed in that manner? And I assume report back every month would be a good thing. Sounds good. So shall we say we're on the way, and we got something started with citizens coming to our meeting and expressing their concerns, and that is what we would like to have happen so that we get advised about those concerns. Good. Now, we have director's report. Is there other things to add, Chad, besides that?
Oh yeah, we got a lot going on. So,
Okay.
Staff has been very busy this week with our accreditation visit. So we were the first accredited parks department in the state of Iowa. And for a long time, we were the only one until recently Cedar Rapids became accredited. But we are up for our renewal. So as part of the process, we have a visit team that comes in. It's all done virtually currently that reviews all our standards and our evidence of compliance. So our administrative team and our senior management team has been really busy working the last couple of days with that review team. I wanted to give an update on pools. We did open up our pools. Again, unfortunately, we are on a hybrid model again this season due to the lack of lifeguard applicants. So we are in every other day between Fedge and Annie Witt. The past couple days, we've had some maintenance issues, mechanical issues at Fedge that we have worked through. So Fedge will be open on Saturday per its normal schedule. Again, we're still hiring. If you know any last minute kids that need summer jobs, we need lifeguards, so please send them our way. Ideally, we'd love to be able to get up to the point where we can open all the pools as normal 7 days a week. There are other communities, maybe you've read, are struggling with their pools as well. It's sort of unfortunate, but it seems to be sort of status quo right now when it comes to aquatics. I am going to be, following this meeting tomorrow or early next week, Jessica is going to be sending out a survey to you all. What I'm looking for is some just feedback on how we are as staff reporting information to you as a body. So when I first started 4 years ago, we revamped what you see as far as your advisory board packet and the reports we put in. I'm just doing an analysis evaluation if that's still the best format. Are you guys getting, what you want, when you want it? How can we improve in how we communicate and inform you guys of things? Or you could say, hey, you guys give us all we need. I don't know. So I put together a short survey that Jess is going to send out to you guys. I'd appreciate if you guys can respond within a week or two. It's only going to be like 3 or 4 questions, not a whole lot, and give any sort of thoughts or advice you might have as far as how we are doing our board packets for each month. And then lastly, Party in the Park, Jersey Farms Park tonight, starts at 5:30. We had the first event last Thursday at Harrington. It was very well attended and went off very well. So we are looking forward to having the Parties in the Park events back and up and running. So unless you have any questions for me, those are sort of the 4 highlights I wanted to give you. Teresa is not here. Troy is on vacation. Teresa is, as I mentioned, with the accreditation, she's trying to finalize some things, so I excused her from the meeting. Her report is in your packet. Betsy's here if you have questions for her as well. So,
Linda has a,
Chad, you won't be insulted if us newbies don't have enough information to respond to your survey, will you?
no.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Yes, no.
what triggered one of my questions when I read the report is with the issue at Splash Landing in Bettendorf, how has that impacted our pools and capacity? Have we had to turn people away because there's so many wanting to get in? Do you have a sense of that?
Up until this week, it had been okay. This week with the heat wave, and not only, I want to say, I believe Moline has had some issues and has had limited openings as well. So as far as I know, we have one pool open, Rock Island has their public space open, and Scott County are the 3 sort of public pools in the region that are operating. We have had a pretty busy crowd, pretty full crowd at Anywit this week. I don't know if it's caused any bather load capacities or cloudy water to where we've had to temporarily close or not. But yes, it's been busy with the heat.
Thank you. Yes. The other reports, recreation is the one that was alluded to because we do not have someone to ask questions. So if we, well, yeah. Well, I had another general question. Yeah. Maybe you know this. The adventure camps, they're full. And so my question was, a sense of the capacity. Has this been the trend every year recently? And if so, what have we thought about with expansion?
Yeah, we've talked through expansion. Typically, yeah, our camps fill or come close to capacity. The challenge with expansion right now is staffing. I mean, we struggled to get enough camp counselors similar to aquatics to run what we have. So physically, facility-wise, yes, we have the capacity to do more. It's just a matter of finding enough staff to do it.
Hopefully that will change. We hope in the future, yeah. Good. Other questions that were under recreation that might have been triggered as you read that you would like more information about, maybe we can get that.
So with this, the staffing that you were referring to for the camps, what is that requirement, the age bracket for those? I know I looked through the book that comes out every year. And I seen one where it said something about the teenagers being a camp counselor, if I recall correctly, and there was like a course or something, but there was a fee associated with it, or, do you know what I'm talking about?
So yeah, we offered this year a teen leaders camp, which the concept being that, kids that were interested in doing this, right, like a junior counselor camp. The challenge with camp is we have 12-year-olds in the camp, so to have a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old, there's not a lot of age separation there. So for our camp staff, we do prefer that they're 18. History has just kind of shown us that works better. But that teen camp, the idea was, you've got that tween, that 13, 14-year-old who you really don't want to leave home alone, but he or she's too big for camp. Unfortunately, we did not get enough signed up to offer that camp this year.
Absolutely understood. Okay, thank you.
Let's move on. We have revenue, facilities, and park operations. That would be Betsy, right? Right? Yeah. Any comments there? She's here. I just made a comment, great progress report. When you think of all the things that you listed, been very busy, and weather has been, in some cases, ideal, and then we're into heat again. But I say, way to go. That was good for us. Troy is not here for revenue, facilities, and golf courses. Are there things that we would like more information about that can be moved on for covering either independently or at the next meeting? Jerry?
I just have a couple questions. What is the mowing schedule at Credit Island?
So we are on a 10-day mowing cycle. So every park, it gets mowed 10 days. There are some parks that get mowed more often than that, but Credit Island is on a 10-day schedule.
I have a question, and I drove down through there about a week ago, and it was a bunch of weeds out there again, just like what it normally has. And my question to that is, what would happen if we took that whole area and sprayed it like you would a lawn, that eliminate the weeds and let the grass grow? And then would it be a lower maintenance property with the weeds gone? And it wouldn't be needing the oversight of cutting down weeds? You see where I'm going with that? Does that make sense? Could we do that? Would that help?
Yes, if we could put a management practice like that in place.
Once you did it right at first, then it would be a lower maintenance, I would think.
So if you were able to get rid of the like a lawn. So yeah. Basically, if I'm reading you right, Jerry, you're looking probably for the portions or larger portions of the island to be returned to more of a manicured state like it was when it was a golf course, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I know this is a favorite saying of mine, anything is possible, giving resources and funding, right? And to be honest, we could explore what that would look like to see, what those costs would be, the initial costs, right?
The initial cost, because after that it would just be maintenance.
It's a large acreage, but there is like any lawn care, there's multiple, you still have to upkeep it, weeds will come back. And
I understand that.
The size and scope of the island, it would be.
It wouldn't have to be the whole island.
Right. We could look at dedicated areas, probably where the recreational areas primarily are.
Back to the tree line as you're coming in.
Yeah, and I've had some conversations with Steve Aarons with Riverfront Improvement about potentially going after a REAP grant with the state of Iowa to help the island recover. And part of that application could be related to improving the turf quality and doing some of that upfront work and get that funded through a grant process potentially. So, but again, it's the reason it's like that currently beyond just, the issues, the flooding, the derecho and EAB and other things that have impacted, again, it comes down to resources and the amount of people we have and time to do it. So not something, definitely something worth exploring. So.
Something to look at. That's it.
Jody has a comment on this topic. She says this is a regional park and should be mowed more often. Daily car attendance is 700 plus. Ignoring it as large of the city, we shouldn't happen.
Yeah, Chris has a comment
Um,
reflecting.
I think Chad was kind of alluding to it, but like weeds is kind of the natural state that it's going to always tend towards. Like a lawn is an unnatural thing that kind of America has invented that, to put this certain grass down and keep it this long is not the natural state. I don't know that what's down there is natural prairie or wetland type stuff either. I don't think it is, and Chad's shaking his head. So, I would be more interested maybe with the vast majority of what used to be the golf course down there of trying to make it more like Nahant maybe, because it's a 9-hole golf course's worth of acreage, and we're never going to go back to that being 9-hole golf course size worth of lawn, I don't think. So something that isn't junky weeds maybe and more prairie, wetland, whatever that is, and Krista would be the one to speak to on that stuff, but I don't know. I've been through there a fair amount this summer on the bike path, and yeah, the island looks a little rough, but I just don't know that it's ever going to look the way it looked in the 90s as far as a manicured golf course.
Yeah, I would tell you that part of the reason, aside from the flooding and the upkeep, I think it was a budgetary decision primarily to eliminate the golf course due to the cost of maintaining that down there. But I think that there's a good combination of both, right? Manicured recreation area as well as naturalized, and looking at opportunities to the current weeds and things like that, right? They're natural, but they're not the natural you want, right? You want more of an established prairie or wetland. So we can certainly look at different options to enhance that and make that better, as well as looking at maybe where we can manicure turf in a more park-like traditional setting. That makes sense.
Well, that's what I'd like to see. And of course, the old saying is if we keep doing the same thing we have been doing, we're going to get the same results. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
I will, thank you, Jerry. I would, when Jody made the comment about, Credit Island as a regional park and worthy of more attendance, that was kind of like an aha to me. I hadn't thought about those kinds of things in relationship, to the rating of the parks for size, et cetera. So I think this has been a good thought process about steps we might take in regard to that. As I choke here. Other comments? Are we good? Yeah. Go ahead.
So how many acres is Credit Island? I've never known the exact, or pretty close.
It's about 430 acres.
So I can see Jerry's side. I spent a great deal of my childhood down there, baseball games on Sunday in a Credit Island. I remember before the statues were even in place and the big tank was down there. But I'm curious to know with the growing amount of all-terrain, like the off-road side-by-side vehicles, is that an option or a draw? I'm just curious. It's not in danger.
So if I'm understanding correctly, similar to or developing like an ATV park or off-road motorized, we're talking motorized?
Yeah.
Like, we have off-road trails that are for bikes at Sunderbrook and or North, we're talking, yeah. So from time to time, that's been floated. And I think there's probably a very mixed viewpoint. I think it's something that would be unique and something different if it's managed properly. But I know part of the challenge with the island is trying to deter that activity from happening on its own, you know,
Right.
where they're taking off-road vehicles and tearing through the island and creating damage. But if it was something that was organized and designed and built correctly and then operated in a way that provided that, I think it could be done.
I think it would be, even at the end of the year, it could be potentially a revenue generating thing because they are really growing as far as an event around that. And you're finding them, they're starting to come to the streets illegally, and you'll see them zipping through February or, you know, I just, you know,
I think
just the idea.
The island has such a history and has such a place within Davenport that there are a diverse amount of opinions of
I
what
agree.
should happen on that island. You know, everything from it should be turned back to a nature preserve 100%, right, to a higher level of manicure and more recreational values. So there's been planning process after planning process and discussion after discussion. And I would say from a director standpoint, trying to find the consensus to what the best fit for the model of the island has been the hardest thing, because I think even geographically, yes, with Jody's comment, it is a regional park. It's a regional draw. But it's still a first ward park. It's still a west side asset. So then there's east and northeast portions of the community that probably never visit Credit Island, and they're the ones we always say, well, why are you putting money back into Credit Island? It floods. That's a waste of taxpayer money. So just understanding the different, I think, perceptions of the island throughout the community is probably the most challenging jump-off point to progress into an actionable plan, right, to improve the island.
Right. I know.
But it can be done.
Yeah, well, even outside of that, I just keep thinking, as a kid, there were at one time probably man-made trails where fishermen would make down in there or whatever, and we would go with our parents kind of down through there, and we'd always hit a spot where it was just sludge and just, it's a river, you know, period. So I was like, well, what could you do down there that could be beneficial and have a purpose for all those, you know, the overgrowth? I know over in Moline, Deere has like 180 acres that's fenced, and part of their agreement is it has to stay in its natural habitat. However, it grows crazy over there, but they have trails cut in so that people are still, and they're pretty wide, they're good wide trails, but it still makes it look contained even though it's really not. So I was just kind of brainstorming. Okay.
Thanks. Jerry, you have a comment?
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Last night, Chad was
Unusual.
the speaker at the Ward 6 meeting, and what I'm triggering here is Credit Island and the tournament that is coming up. And when you think about the opportunities that are there, it's parks in Davenport are part of the line, the.
So what Wendy is trying to get out is
Whatever.
that
Yeah, the new baskets.
Visit Quad Cities and Iron Lion, so we're talking
Yeah.
disc golf.
Yeah, disc golf. Yeah, I couldn't think. No, I'm putting it in. Yeah, I'm sorry. I
In
went
July,
blank.
there will be a professional disc golf masters level tournament hosted in the Quad Cities, and multiple courses in different communities will be used. Eastern Avenue course is the one they are playing in Davenport, as well as Crow Creek in Bettendorf, and I believe Camden and Milan and Snowstar. So there's 4. So we're working as the logistics side to help that event, but it's really being run by Visit Quad Cities and the Iron Lion. So
We'll show off the new baskets.
correct.
Right, get to use that.
No.
Yes. I went to that one the last time it was there. Other questions? This has been good discussion based upon the report itself that triggered it, didn't it?
Hey,
We had
Wendy,
again,
if I can add one last thing, I'm sorry I missed in my report. In case you guys follow council agendas, last night on Committee of the Whole, we had the resolution that was brought forward by Alderman Cornett, seconded by Alderman Dunn, to officially name the North Marquette DOLA area as Robin Creek Park. So that will be on consent next week, and then it will be actually have a name. So it's more of a formality thing for the city has owned that parcel for since I think 1977-ish, and it was never given an actual park dedication when the DOLA was built and when we added the off-road trails. So just wanted to make that an awareness thing for you guys.
Jody added a comment to the end of Miss Farah. Snowmobile tracks would also be good.
good. Are we ready to move on? Be sure that you take advantage of the,
So it should be done.
what, sir? Repeat. Oh, okay. That's way it goes, yes. So Red, White, and Boom is coming up, and the report is that there will be a lot of expansion of activities for families along the parkways on the riverfront. So take advantage of that. That was a sharing yesterday. And if you don't know, the main stage production of Imagine That is part of the 70th anniversary for Junior Theater. And so it is a day of full events capped off with dinner on the lawn. So it's a fancy celebration coming up. So take advantage of seeing at no charge the productions that day. So keep that in mind. We have coming up, July meeting will be July 21st at 4:30 here. And Chris will be there, and he's also still here. So I don't want to forget about our report for the Riverfront Improvement Commission. It's been mentioned several times, so please take it over.
It was a fairly short meeting, and Chad was there, so I can report on what he said. But no, they talked. We had a group from Nahant there talking about some of their plans to grow the marsh area, maybe purchase some additional acreage and add it onto that, and potentially add more trails that connect to other trails into there. Hopefully, make it more a place that more than like 1% of the city has ever been, probably. And then Chad presented a little thing about a Credit Island play area that the Riverfront Improvement Commission seemed a little less than receptive to, but it seems to me there's kind of an infinite opinion on how much people are willing to pay to have fixed after floods. And like personally, it doesn't seem unreasonable to spend $10,000 scraping mud off of something every 3 or 4 years. But anyway, there was a fair amount of discussion on what should be built at Credit Island that may or may not flood often. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the future. And then Steve reported on all the riverfront events are starting up. They've already had the first 2 movies. The first movie, they had 250 to 300 people down there for the movie on the riverfront. And then I think last week was Sandlot movie was played down there, and that was after our meeting, so I don't know how well that one was attended. But a lot of those events are on the back of our packet as well. And then I passed along the dog park concerns to the riverfront meeting as well, and I would suggest maybe some of them could be invited to participate in that ad hoc committee. And that was about it.
Thank you. Thank you. There was a question about Quinlan Court and how it was used at last night's ward meeting. I thought that was, it was a new opening, but one of the things that is catching on, I think, is music that's being part of the events. And I think the bag tournament as Quinlan Court is coming up. And so I don't know if we could come up with a team, a park advisory board team playing bag, but yeah. So there's questions about how it's used, and so the more that we can become familiar and connect with events, we can speak up about Quinlan Court and, you know, support it in our areas as you hear comments about that, because they're still kind of growing it as such, and we will keep that in mind. Well, we've heard from Chris, and I gave the next meeting time, so it appears from our discussion winding down that it is, do we have anything in addition for advisory time? I mean, we kind of had comments going on throughout. Is there something special, Jerry?
When we put together that, or when you put together that playground area for Credit Island, is that not approved yet?
So that's the conversation, Chris.
That's why I
It's
brought it-
funded, but as part of our, I guess, relationship with Riverfront Improvement and Historic Preservation, I just presented it to them. There was nothing actionable that Riverfront did.
Didn't sound like they wanted it.
Well,
That wasn't it.
no, I think overall the concept was good. One member in particular wanted a little bit more information, or wanted our consultants to look at if we were to elevate it at different areas, like raise the playground, what does that in turn potentially save in flood recovery or ongoing maintenance? So as the consultant team develops a plan, I'm going to have them do that sort of analysis. But I think from a concept and a play amenity feature, it was well received. They just had,
Yes, I didn't mean to misrepresent that. Yeah, they were just concerned about the maintenance flooding issues is all.
like how will it recover and that
So
type of
what
stuff.
I'd like to have is the levy committee be proactive towards Credit Island. And I know that they're not in a lot of cases. Because I want them to connect that right on down through to Credit Island. So if there's negativity there about Credit Island, I would sure like to know about it. And then
I
I'd
don't-
like to.
I don't think it was negativity. They really liked the playground concept. They just were worried, and like you said, it was particularly one person, but they were worried about how expensive it would be. You know, in the past, there's been times where Credit Island has flooded like every year for several years in a row, but now currently it hasn't flooded since 2019, the big flood. So there was just some concern with all the silt and everything that would get in all the new logs and canoe replicas and all the fun stuff that was potentially shown to the focus groups down there and stuff. So I don't know. I felt like the engineers are smart folks and they can figure this out. So hopefully it all keeps moving forward.
Jody had a comment. Would that be any different than the new playground downtown cleaning after a flood? Downtown playground would have cost the cleaning after a flood as well.
Anything that floods would have a cost to recover. The destination play area with Main Street Landing, I don't think we're far enough along in design to totally understand that, but that is something that the consultant team has been tasked to look at as they go through that process, right? What as they design it, how is it resilient to floods, and with the idea of designing it in a way that is helps to recover and lower the cost of maintenance, I guess. There are two different scales of spaces. I mean, one is significantly larger than the other. It's sort of hard to compare the two, other than that they're both being built in floodplains.
Is that everyone? Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I haven't been to see the like American Ninja, like what do you call it? Obstacle course, yeah. So, but I know in the last meeting it was mentioned, or maybe it was on while we were riding down to Roosevelt. It was mentioned how it's really for older kids. If I remember right, there's a plan to put one for younger kids at one of the parks, right?
Correct. Harbor Road.
Down the road, okay.
No, Harbor Road Park.
Oh, sorry.
The
Okay.
one adjacent to Roosevelt is getting, and that is going to be a 5 to 12-year-old age
5 to
range.
12. Okay. I was talking to somebody about it, and they were headed to the bigger one with a 5-year-old.
And EMICE is getting one as well, yes.
And EMIs, okay.
I didn't forget about you, Jerry.
All right. Should I spread the word?
Oh, we're off, yes. Yeah. Well, having as an adult with 2 grandchildren at the park where the first Ninja went, you have to be really physically fit and agile to be successful with it. I have to laugh because I laugh so hard. I couldn't get on something and they were laughing at me. But it's a real physical challenge. So I think when we're looking 5 to 12, we're going beyond our traditional playground equipment and really adding components that really challenge balance and physical abilities, but having within it the successful element with it, but still young children are at the other one as well, but we're good with it, so thanks for the question. We are, I think, ending our time today, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Jerry? There was a race, do we need? Yes.
I just have one more thing to say.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm glad Chad's here because he's got an open mind about all this park systems that we have and so forth, and so I think that was Iowa City's loss and Davenport's gain. So I'm not trying to get brownie points. I'm just telling you like it is.
Yes. Well, thanks for participating. We've got a lot of things still happening, and I'm so glad that the dog park will be moving forward. And I think our persons who were here, those individuals, they'll get the information that we're forming. So we said we'd take care of it, which is good. So I will not, have a good 4th of July and Father's Day this weekend, if you have that, right? And so I'll see you again someplace along the way, or at least at next month. Huh? You're going to party in the park. We're going there, right? Yeah. Yes. I am too, but I did not bring sunscreen. But I think it'll be fine.
There's a shelter, just no trees.
But everybody will be in the shelter.